Hi, folks. Thank you for joining our Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar. Welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of the core functionality surrounding Jira Service Management, what it's intended for, and also what teams can get value out of the product and how it can help them provide value. And so where we want to start a little bit is, what is Jira Service Management? That's usually the question we get when people first approach the tool. Many of them are familiar with Jira, Atlassian's core ticketing product. It's just kind of an issue management product or task management product. And Jira Service Management is Jira and that all that issue management capability rolled up into a service and support management tool. And so allowing for ticketing, more advanced ticketing and support of external or internal customers and providing a service, right? Hence Jira Service Management. And before I talk too much about or dive too deeply into the features and specific functionality inside the tool, I want to talk a little bit about some questions we commonly get surrounding who is it for? That can be kind of a confusing question for folks because many people just think, well, service management is going to be for my IT service desk or, our help desk or things like that. But it actually is a lot broader use cases. And so one of the things we find that many teams are service teams without even realizing it. They're providing a service to either internal or external customers. And oftentimes there's two problems with that. One is there's a lot of different channels of intake. Those can include email. They can include their boss. They can include somebody standing in the doorway asking them to give them some information or do something for them. Or they can do it via a phone call. And there's no clear prioritization as they're receiving requests and they're not putting them into a ticketing system or anything of that nature. And then because of that, those services that they're providing are often provided very opaquely. There's no visibility for the requester into, well, how much progress have they made? When's it going to be done? And that can lead them to bothering you, bothering your boss, asking for updates constantly. And many people don't realize that it's a problem and that there's actually a solution for it. At a high level, the solution there is to have a service desk that provides a clean intake form and keeps requesters automatically up to date with where their request is, what the progress is on that request, and when it's going to be done. That's one piece of that solution. The second piece of the solution at a high level is on the back end for the team doing the work itself, having queues that help folks, team members prioritize their work and help them respond in a timely manner through using SLAs or service level agreements. And we'll talk more about that when we dive into some of the project admin functionalities in the tool itself. So before we talk too much more about the conceptual stuff, I do want to dive straight into the tool here and show you guys some examples. And so at its top level, when we hit, what the product, Jira Service Management, the first thing we hit is what we like to call the portal of portals, but what Atlassian kind of calls the help center. And this help center is a roll-up of all of the service desks in your particular instance. And you'll see all those service desks down here in these tiles. You'll also see this search bar that allows you to search by keyword for certain request types or services or even knowledge base articles, as there is a native integration with a knowledge base, which we'll talk about here in a second. And so down inside each of these portals is a different team's project. This is where it's actually connected directly to a Jira Service Management project. And when we click into these portals, say we hit this portal and we go, hey, I have a request for HR. We can hit that HR service desk. And we've set it up in this case where the first thing they show you is a couple of links to some documentation. And so as we click into those, we'll see some articles. Obviously, these are just sample articles surrounding some self-help stuff, how to do certain things, whether it's new hire, employee exit. In these cases, this is all very specific to a service like HR service desk. And then we got some policies, some easy access to policies here. Now, if what we need doesn't show up in any of these articles, we can actually go back to the service desk and actually raise a request. And as a customer, the idea there is we want to give the customer some information first and see if they can do some self-help, because what that does is it deflects tickets away from our service desk and it reduces the load on our users. So we want to provide very visible, very available documentation and very robust knowledge base. And so if that fails and they need to submit a request, or they're just doing something that always requires a request, like something like employee onboarding, they would go here, they can click into employee onboarding, and now they get this nice clean form. And the key here is it's not being done over email, where all you get is free form. You put in a subject line and a body of the email, and they can put anything they want. In here, we can actually control what information is collected, and we can make these fields required. And all of this is customizable. Just like you can customize screens in Jira, you can customize the forms and the request forms out here on Jira Service Management, out here in the portal. And so, in here, we're asking for an onboarding request. We'll go ahead and submit a request here. So I'll just use myself as an example. And when we submit a ticket, we can do date fields. We can do multi-select fields. We can do text fields, any of that, all that capabilities there to build out a comprehensive form as best as possible. We are located in St. Louis, and I'm going to be a systems engineer. I filled this out before. And I'm going to make myself my own manager, but you can make this search only specifically that user's manager, or you can customize this to autofill with a preset, whoever needs to approve the request. And then we can go ahead and specify, okay, I'm going to need a laptop and Jira. And of course, we would put more specific requests in here, and we can attach files like an offer letter, something like that. And we can submit this request. And so what this request will do is it'll go directly into the HR team's queue, and they'll have another item in their queue. We need to process this onboarding request, and we have all the information we need because we require all the information we need. So there's very minimal need to reach back out to the requester for more information because we've required all the information. And it makes the agent's job a lot easier. So when we submit a request as a customer, this is the view we get. We can see all the information we put in. And then down here, we can see any further activity. And so as the agents on the back end of this service desk comment out here to communicate with me, the customer, we'll see that whole conversation begin to extend down this comment section here. Over here on the right, we can see the status. This goes back to solving one of those main problems that we have, which is visibility into progress of the work being asked for. This right here can allow us to see the exact status of the ticket we requested, as well as get all these easy updates from the agents themselves. We can also choose to turn on and off notifications for this ticket, whether or not we want to receive emails. And then we can see here what type of request it is, and we can choose to share it with another user. So say I'm a team manager, but I want my assistant manager to also follow up on this request. If I happen to be out of the office, I can share this with any other user, any other customer, and they'll be added to the ticket as well. And so this really, the key here is it solves the front end where we have customers that need to submit requests, that they need to be giving consistent information, and they need to be updated. They need that visibility into the process. They need the visibility into progress being made on their request. And they also need an intuitive path to submitting a ticket. And that's where, one of the other key features of Jira Service Management is that every page you look at and every modification to a page has a unique URL. So you'll notice when I click into raise a request, the URL changes. When I open a request form, the URL changes. And what this allows us to do, it may seem trivial, but what it allows us to do is to send people links directly to a specific form from a web page, a Confluence page, a SharePoint page, or even via an email. Send them a link to go to a specific form to fill out a ticket. And that can seem trivial, but it reduces confusion for customers and takes them directly to where they need to be. And so it's little things like that that make this tool a particularly intuitive tool. So that's kind of the HR service desk process as a customer, but you'll notice there's 3 service desks out here. The third one being a facilities service desk. And this service desk, oftentimes facilities, we see a lot of companies that their facilities team basically is they get phone calls and that's how they know something broke, or they get emails. But setting up a service desk for them can allow them to track all their requests in a very clean queue and also have a good method to prioritize those requests. And so they can prioritize maintenance issues over things like requesting a desk move or requesting an event to be prepared for, or any just general questions. Obviously, reporting a maintenance issue is going to be the bigger problem, right? And so below that, we can say, let's just say pipe broke in bathroom, something like that. We'll say minor repair. That's probably a major repair. It's located in building A, floor 1, men's bathroom, something like that, right? What are the details? Pipe is broken and leaking water. Hopefully it's on the top end of the water service. And then we can attach photos, things like that, all any information we need, and we can submit requests. And so this request will go drop right into the queue for the facilities folks. They'll get an email notification that there's a new ticket if they set that up. And again, we can see the status here. So this is kind of that customer interface. And the last piece I want to talk about is up here in the top right. We can see a few things. One, we have this search function. At all times, we can search for, maybe I need to do an onboarding, and when I type that in, you'll see employee onboarding, or you'll see an IT service desk also has an onboard new employees request. And that's going to be specifically for IT. And so more than likely, when you submit the request to HR is going to go out and submit a request to IT because they have some things that IT needs to do, like set up a new machine, stuff like that. But you don't need to do that, right? Because all your request is, hey, let's kick off this onboarding process. And so you may see that type of thing, or even, very similar request types, but in very different teams. Next to that, we've got our request list. And so we can see any requests created by us, which you'll see the two that I just created. One's a new hire onboarding request, and one is a maintenance request. We can see approvals that are waiting for us. So I've got a bunch of approvals that are awaiting my approval. So I could jump in here and I'll see this little approval button. We can set up those approvals for any request type, for any issue type. And these can be really handy for making sure requests aren't hitting the queues that haven't been approved yet. And so nobody's wasting time on a request that's going to get denied anyway, right? And so we can come in here, we can click the approve button. It'll punch this in and automatically now it's approved and it's moved into the waiting for support phase, which means now that team is seeing it in their queue. So this allows managers to come in here and see all the approvals that are waiting for them to complete. And so then below that, we can see any in our organization. So these are all the tickets that have been shared with the entire organization. In this case, we don't have any. And then we can just see all, which is just any tickets that I can see. And you'll notice these filters. Open requests, just say any status. You'll see a bunch that have been closed in the past, things like that. And so this allows us to very quickly navigate through our tickets, find currently open tickets, and sort down by request type, even if we have a ton of tickets open, right? Like if we really wanted to focus on employee onboarding requests, something like that. And so it allows us to narrow down, navigate to our ticket, and find that there. And then in the top right, we have, of course, our profile options, which are going to link back to our Atlassian account. And that allows us to update and edit our profile. And if we ever get kind of lost and we want to get back to the top level, we can actually replace this image up here. And that's actually a good thing to cover. This whole portal is extremely customizable. So you can do colors, the banner images, you can do logos. And then we've also built out custom portals for companies with a full custom skin living on top of the Jira core product. And so that's also a possibility, but that's a more advanced implementation. So but we always have this button up here in the top left. We can navigate back to the top level. You'll notice it kept my search there. And so then we can see our service desks again. Down here at the bottom, we can see our recently used requests. This is really useful if you do have a common source of work. If you're submitting the same types of requests often, this is a great little place to instantly click this. It'll take you straight to the form and you can submit that request. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the requests that I created. So we'll look at the facilities request first. So in this case, pipe broke in the bathroom. Well, I'm going to go ahead and navigate into the agent side as if I was a facilities team member. And the quickest way to do that from a ticket is to click the breadcrumbs up here. You can see a little issue key up there. And so this will take me into the actual agent side of the project. And if you're familiar with Jira, you'll be familiar with a lot of this visual functionality here. And so as an agent, we're going to see the request that got submitted. Over here on the right, we're going to see all our people fields. So who it's assigned to, currently unassigned, who the requester is, which is myself. And then we'll see any, due dates, priority, stuff like that. And up here at the top right, we'll see an SLA running. And so for this particular issue, we've got 80 hours to resolve this issue per our service level agreements that we've agreed to, which that's pretty long for a facility service desk. So we'd probably tighten that up. But it's entirely possible that they could be that overwhelmed. So, and then we of course have this little link to take us back to the portal itself. Now, as an agent, we have the ability to create subtasks underneath this top level task. We have the ability to link other issues to it. So maybe we've seen a couple other requests come in for pipes broken in the same place. And so we kind of have a few duplicates. We can link those together and close out the duplicates. We can update fields at will here. So if it starts out as a major, we go take a look at it and find that it's a minor repair, we can downgrade it. We can fix spelling errors and punctuation. And we can, maybe we can go to a priority and go, okay, let's say this is actually a safety hazard. We can actually bump the priority to high. And if our queues are set up in a certain manner, it'll actually push those up to the top of the queue. So if I go to all open queue and I see all my open tickets and I choose to, I'll add a column in here. We can update and customize our queues. So I can add the priority column here. And now I can sort by priority. So if I had multiple requests, I could push all the high priority stuff up to the top of the list. And so again, we go back to those two key solution points, right? The first one being transparency. If I take this to in progress, right? As the customer on the portal, I see, okay, it's the repair's in progress. They're fixing it already. I know it's in progress. And that's our visibility solution, right? The second solution being prioritization. If we don't have an intake form like this and a formalized queue for the folks that are going to be managing these problems, and all they're getting is phone calls, they're going to get yanked around. People are going to be calling their boss to have them do certain things, and there's no fixed prioritization method. And so this solves the second piece, which is a queue with a list of issues that are all prioritized in the correct manner, with the correct SLAs and timers ticking down saying like, hey, this is the most important. It's been open the longest, stuff like that. Without that type of functionality, we fail to solve the problem that many teams are running into, which is no method of prioritization and no clean intake form and no visibility to the requesters. And so that's kind of some key functionality there. Now, I want to pause real quick and just mention, as you guys have questions or thoughts like that, please feel free to go to the Q&A button on the meeting, on the call, and submit some questions there. And we'll have some questions later on at the end of the webinar, last 10, 15 minutes or so we'll take for questions. So please feel free, as you think of stuff, write those down and send those via that, and I'll open that up and take a look later on. So just a little side note there. All right. So when we are looking in here, we talked about queues, and this is the facilities queue. Let's jump over to our onboarding request. If I go to created by me and I go to this onboarding request I created, and again, same method here. I can click the issue key here if I have agent privileges, and it'll take me into the agent side. Now, there's a little bit different information being captured here in the HR service desk, and there's you'll notice some different queues over here. And so for team priority wise, if we go to all open, you'll notice we have a couple requests where the SLAs have started to tick off. They're saying like, hey, these are late. They need to be completed quicker. And that stuff, you'll notice it's sorted by that. It's going to push it to the top of the list. Again, hitting that prioritization requirement. So as an agent, this is where we're going to spend most of our time, is in queues. Now, we have a couple queues here. There's the all open, which is going to be anything that you'll notice is unassigned. If I have something assigned to me, it's going to go into this assigned to me queue. And this is where each agent will probably live the most, looking at tickets that are assigned to them. Whereas the manager will be looking at the all open or specifically the unassigned tickets. Below that, we've got employee onboarding requests queue. So this is just going to show all of the onboarding requests that are in, that have been submitted. And again, ordered by the amount of time you have left to resolve it to meet your SLA. And those SLAs are very customizable. They can be based on any field. You could have high priority requests make the SLA shorter, low priority requests make the SLA longer, things like that can all be configured. And we'll talk more about those as we go through the project admin side of these service desks. We've got an onboarding and offboarding request queue. This is going to be for anybody being potentially terminated or retiring or resigning, anything like that. And then we've got some change requests. So maybe we're getting some requests that are name change requests, right? So in this case, this name change request is assigned to me. I can open that up. This was submitted a long time ago. Like, man, wow, this for some reason slipped through the cracks. Obviously, we created this on a previous demo. We can jump in here. We can see the information. Okay, they just got married. Their name changed. Please see attached marriage certificate. Okay. And so we can go down here and we can say, there's a little communication here from the agent to the customer. We can go down here. We can attach files to send out to the customer if there's a form they have to submit or fill in or something like that for a legal form or for payroll or anything like that. We can go ahead and bring this into in progress. And so now the customer will see, hey, my ticket's in progress. They're changing my name. And then we can say, okay, this has been resolved. And so now it's complete. And I can say resolution is done. And I can respond to the customer and say, hi, Brian, we changed your name. Please see attached confirmation, something like that, right? And then we can send them an attached file. They'll get that comment, that notification, and they can, from the customer side say, thank you, appreciate your help, whatever, this thing's done, right? And you'll see that it's complete. And you'll notice when we go to all open, there's one less ticket on our queue. And so the next one we need to complete that's also way overdue is another name change request. So I'll go ahead and grab this one, assign it to me, and we can go through that same process. Now this one has a couple of subtasks. And so maybe you need to communicate to another team. Well, that's already been done. Awesome. And then we need to report to either our manager or maybe their manager. There's a process where we have to check with them and confirm. And so that's been requested, it's in progress. Let's say we get the information back, we can switch this to done. And now all our subtasks are done, right? And so this allows us to work both in the queue for prioritization, but also on each individual ticket, we can create lots of subtasks, assign them to other team members. And once they get complete, finish them out. We can see a status bar here for subtasks getting completed. And then we can go here and go, okay, start in progress. You'll notice Brian asked, hey, has anybody worked on this in a while? And I can say, I can reply to the customer and I can say, we are working on it now. And all of this, all of this communication is just adding to value for your customers and for your team, because what it's doing is it's getting all of your intake, all your work out of your email, out of your inboxes, off your phones and into a dedicated channel for gathering information. And the more we use this, the more we'll get comfortable with, the functionality, with customizations. Every bit of this, the workflow can be customized. For this case, it's a super simple workflow, but we could customize this to have, 6, 7, 8 statuses with approvals. And then the last part and the best part with Jira is the available automation. So we can automate a lot of this process. So we could say, okay, as soon as all the subtasks are done, automatically move this thing to done and finish it out, stuff like that. And so now working on it, and now it's complete and done. And so if you're looking at this request in the portal, you'll see that the status is done. You'll see your request has changed, done with resolution done. And folks will actually get emails to their inbox saying your request has been completed. Maybe you've got a 2-step close that requires customer approval. You can set that up as well, where a customer has to come in here and click approve for a change request saying, yes, I see it worked. We're all good. And that type of thing is all possible with the out of the box customizations available in Jira Service Management. So yeah, there's a lot to absorb there, a lot to take in as far as the functionality from a customer and agent perspective. The next thing we're going to kind of pivot to is talking about the tool itself, and some configuration options that we have as a project admin. And so we talked about queues here, which is a project admin. We can build out customized queues with customized columns that are ordered by certain things or filtered by specifics. And so let's say, we want this all open queue to instead be maybe all unassigned. So I can go here, I can edit this queue, and I can say, okay, not only do I want to filter by, open, I want to, filter by specifically assignee is unassigned, right? And so now this is going to be an all open and unassigned queue, right? We'll go ahead and save this. And so now, as soon as I assign this to me, it's going to drop out of the queue, or it should drop out of the queue if I filtered that correctly. There it goes. And so now what we can have is we can have a queue where a manager looks at the unassigned queue and they assign this work out to their team members, and they can glance at this and see this little number over here and say, hey, my unassigned queue is empty. We're good. All the issues have been assigned to folks. I can look at, at my leisure, I can go through the requests that are in progress for various types. But there's no work that's not getting worked on. And that's a really useful place to be. And so then we have the ability to manage these queues, reorder them, add additional queues, things like that. Now, you have a lot of other options as well within a project. We've got this little, we're gonna kind of walk through some of these capabilities. So as a project admin or as an agent, we've got a lot of these left sidebar buttons. First thing we can do is we can raise a request. So this may seem counterintuitive to have raise a request on the agent side, but it's actually a really functional and useful button that we see a lot of teams using. Because if you get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, I need to submit an onboarding request, and maybe I'm driving, maybe I'm on a business trip and I can't do it right now, but I need to get that request submitted immediately. An agent can jump in here, click this raise a request button. It'll take them straight to the portal. And the beauty of this is I can pull this up and select a different request on behalf of. So I can go in here and I can submit a request on behalf of Brian. So he's calling me saying, hey, I need to onboard somebody. We'll just use his own name for all intents and purposes. They're going to be starting. He's going to, talking on the phone. They're going to be starting on Thursday. Okay, where's the employee located? They're in St. Louis. Is it full-time? Yeah, it's going to be part-time. They're also a systems engineer, and their manager is going to be me, right? Actually, I'll make it me. That way I can approve it. And then what software do they need? Well, they use Jira on a daily basis, Office 365 access, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and I already, and you can say, oh, I already emailed you my, their offer letter or something like that. Or maybe they don't have it handy, but you can go ahead and notice it's not a required field. We can go ahead and submit this request, and it's submitted on behalf of Brian. So it'll automatically be shared with him. When he gets to wherever he's going, the process has already been started and it was done. And the best part of this is, yes, you got a phone call, but the ticket was still submitted in a manner that adds it to your queues, allows you to prioritize it properly. So even as an agent, this portal is a really useful tool for making sure that when you submit a ticket or you get a phone call or somebody walks in your office and you say, hey, well, sit next to me here. Let's go ahead and fill out a ticket real quick. Right here, you've got that all the information you need, the required fields filled out, and it drops right in your queue to be prioritized in the correct manner. And so that's a really underrated but very powerful capability to be able to use that portal to make sure all the information you need gets filled in. Below that, we've got our knowledge base articles. And so this is going to show us a link to all of our Confluence articles that have been linked to this particular service desk. And so one of the really nice things about Jira Service Management is that it has a native integration with Confluence, which is Atlassian's documentation and content management tool. And so we like to use that to build out, and they intend for you to use that to build out knowledge base articles that link to different request types. And you can see here when they were updated, you can click into any of those, view them. And additionally, when you're looking at a ticket, So let's open up, let's open up this onboarding ticket. We can go over here to the knowledge base field, and we can actually add and search for articles here. So we could say onboarding, search. Well, there's nothing there. Let's go. No, I don't remember what all we've got. Oh yeah, new hire. There we go. We just named it something different. And we can click this. There's a little button over here called share as comment. And so I can click this and it'll automatically punch a link to that article into a comment out to the customer. And they can click that, boom, they go to the article, and maybe they self-help and they no longer need my help, and they can close out the ticket. And again, the idea with those knowledge base articles is to reduce the load on your internal employees and ideally deflect tickets. And so all of that is just native built-in integration. Now, you can also connect this to an external knowledge base tool like SharePoint or something like that. And it's going to be a little bit less clean. You don't get that native integration, but you can add links to those knowledge base articles out in the portal. You can add PDFs to some of these request forms. So that functionality is also there, but we do recommend people consider using the Confluence, the built-in integration, because as you can see, it's really clean, really easy to use, and very intuitive. So that's kind of the knowledge base stuff. Below that, we've got our reporting functionality. So as a service desk manager or agent, we have the ability to see a workload report, which is going to show all the tickets assigned to each individual agent. So if we have a bunch of agents, a manager can come in here and at a glance see, oh, wow, this person's overloaded. They've got way too many tickets assigned to them, et cetera, et cetera. Or they can see, hey, we got a couple people that have nothing assigned to them. And they can come in here and make those updates and changes. We've got a satisfaction report. Whenever a ticket gets completed, you can have it set up to send out a little satisfaction survey. This is, a lot of people find those surveys or feedback surveys kind of annoying, but it's actually really valuable if you're a team that's providing a service to internal customers or external customers to gauge performance. Are you accomplishing what you're setting out to accomplish? And if not, why? What's missing? What value are you not providing? And this is really the only way to get good, clean feedback from a very large group of customers and understand your performance. And so that can sometimes be really underrated. Can be a really important functionality. And again, with any of these reports, you can, like any of the data reports, you can expand timeframes, custom ranges, stuff like that. And so you could see over the last quarter, if you started to slip, maybe it's because you had to, some people left and you lost some manpower or got transferred to other teams, and you can see satisfaction start to slip a little bit because you're not responding as quickly. It's really useful to be able to gather that type of information from your service desk. Below that, we've got our request deflected. Again, this is going to go back to our knowledge base articles, right? If somebody views a knowledge base article and then doesn't submit a ticket, that's a deflected request, and that gets recorded by the portal and put it here in this report. And you could say, hey, we've deflected, 60 requests this week. That means our knowledge base articles are set up really well. They've got the content they need. And you can even see, if you click into these, you can see which articles get viewed the most, stuff like that. Now, sometimes you'll come in here and go, wow, we're really not getting very many deflected requests, but we're getting a lot of article views. That means people are opening the articles, hoping to help themselves, and not getting anything out of it, and still submitting a request. And that means, hey, we need to update our articles. We need more value here. And it can give you indicators and metrics to use to evaluate adding functionality or adding content to your tickets or to your knowledge base articles, things like that. And then we've got obviously our standard request resolved. This is going to show us a couple different things. One, just simply any requests resolved without an article. That means people didn't look at knowledge base articles and you still solved the request. Request resolved with an article, and request deflected out of the portal. Again, they're going to throw that little metric in there to show you, hey, this is how much time you're saving by having these great knowledge base articles built out. And so the knowledge base is really core to a effective service desk. And then we got some custom reports that are going to show us like the average time spent on tickets. You can see, you can divide that up by ticket type or by agent or by any number of metrics here. And then you can see requests created again through the same divisions. We can see, okay, we had two onboarding requests, maybe 3 or 4 offboarding, 5 change requests, and you can see those start to stack, and you can see how much activity you're getting for the various types of requests. which can allow you to kind of prioritize those as you need to. And then, of course, with Jira, we have the ability to create additional reports. And so this can be anything. We can report on any data series, whether it's create a request, resolve requests with all kinds of various different filters. And all of that is functionality that's built in and out of the box. All right. So past reports, we get into kind of the core service desk functions, like the different channels where tickets are coming in. And these come in three kind of core channels. The main one is the help center. And this is one that we always recommend folks drive their customers to. It's going to be the most useful of the three channels and the most customizable, because the idea here is that you can always get the information you need. The second most useful is going to be your widget. And a widget is basically a ticket collection widget that can be embedded on any web page, in a SharePoint page, intranet, anything like that. And you can configure that widget to be a little pop-up in the bottom corner that says, do you need help? Here's your basic fields. And if we jump in here to configure, we can take a look at what this looks like. Again, this little pop-up, we can decide, okay, what request type is this going to be? Questions for HR probably makes the most sense in this case. You can allow folks to select different request types here in this dropdown. We can allow them to actually search knowledge base articles out here, which can be super useful. I really sometimes need to reactivate my Jetpack. And we can choose our background pattern. We can add a little bit of texture here. We can change what the icon is that they click on, whether it's a question mark, or we can add some custom contact us text, stuff like that. And then we can add a header at the top. Question for HR, question mark, whatever, something like that. And that'll show up here at the top in the header. And then we can have a little confirmation message once they fill that in. Okay, and we can save that. And you'll notice we'll get this little failure because we have to set up our portal to allow login free tickets. So our portal right now only allows people to submit tickets if they're logged in. So in order to accept tickets from a widget that's embedded on a random web page somewhere that doesn't require sign in, you would have to set your settings to where people can actually access it. So just keeping that in mind as a little security item there. So that means that anybody who can access the web page you put this on can submit a ticket into your portal without logging in. And so if that's okay, and you guys are servicing, external product customers, stuff like that, then great. If not, this may not be the best option for you. And the last channel that we talk about is email. And the reason it's last is because it's the least efficient channel. It's still useful, and a lot of people really rely heavily on it. The ability to automatically create tickets from an email that gets sent to the service desk can be great. It also has two limitations. The biggest limitation is you're relying on email servers, and email servers are notoriously unreliable. And so just meaning if there's a delay, or for some reason they try to send it and it gets blocked by a firewall, it's blacklisted or whitelisted, it can cause some disconnects with communication, things like that. The other limitation it has is an email only has two fields. There's the subject line and the body of the email. And what that means is you can only get two fields out of it for Jira, which means the subject line goes to summary on a ticket and the body of the email goes to the description. Sometimes that's all you need, and you can, as an agent, you can figure out the rest. You can respond to get more information. But it's, as we've seen with the Help Center, it's nowhere near as efficient. You can't get the required fields all divvied out to where you can easily filter and prioritize. It's just going to have basic information in it. It's just an email. And so, but, many teams rely on that. And so it's absolutely easy to set up. We can configure specific request types to be created from an email. We can customize what the email account is. Maybe you've got a company email that you want to send it to. My only recommendation here, and the only caveat that I would say, is make sure that whatever email you use is only being used for one thing. You do not want an email that people are opening, because what Jira does is it opens up that email, it looks for unread emails, and it grabs that email and creates a request. If you mark an email as read, or you've opened an email and it shows as read, Jira will not create a ticket from that email. So keep that in mind. We don't want to be accessing that account if we're using it for our main ticket collection account. Okay, and then so that's kind of covers the last thing we're going to cover here for the outside for the agent view is our customers section. Okay, and so this is where we can bring in folks, external customers. We can add them manually by punching in email addresses. And we can also add organizations. These are going to be groupings of customers that have access to each other's tickets. So if you have like 3 or 4 different organizations, you can allow customers to share their tickets across their organizations, and it reduces the amount of duplicate tickets you get on a daily basis. So if you have a major problem pop up, people can see, hey, so-and-so has already submitted a ticket for that. I won't submit one because I know there's already one out there. I don't want to, things like that can be pretty useful. And you can allow sharing across those organizations specifically. And you can also silo, so you can block sharing unless folks are in your organization, and it can keep things siloed so that there's no sensitive information getting shared with too many people. And so all of that falls in the customer permissions. And so real quick, I'm going to do, we've talked a little bit about the core functionality in the service desk. I'm going to run through some of the project settings briefly. As a project admin, you have a lot of configuration options, and many of these, are going to be similar to the options you have as a Jira software admin. But there are some additional ones. And so we're going to focus on the additional options here as a Jira Service Management project admin. The first one is request types. You'll notice request types are the different types of requests that are out on the portal. So when we're looking out here on the portal and we go in here and we see these requests, each of these is a request type. Now request types are unique from issue types. Issue type determines the fields and the screens. Issue types determine the workflows, whereas request types simply determine different sets of fields on the request form. And they are separate, and you can have multiple request types feeding a single issue type. That's more evident over here in the facilities service desk. So when I go into project settings on the facilities service desk and we scroll down here to request types, we're going to see that, oh, well, even this one doesn't have a few different ones, but when we add a new request type, you'll notice we've got request type saying report a maintenance issue type. I can use that same issue type for a new request type. And so basically what that allows us to do is make our request types more granular and more intuitive for our customers while mapping them to the same issue type with the same workflow. It keep it simple for our agents and keeps the information in a single channel or a single process. Makes it a little bit simpler. We can adjust customer permissions for access, for sharing. We can allow anybody on the web to submit tickets into the portal. This would usually be used for a service team that's servicing product customers, like for product support, things like that for non-employee customers. Or you can only do folks that are added by agents or admins. These are going to be your internal customers or internal service desks, like an IT or an HR service desk or facilities for that matter. Below that, we have a lot of language support in the portals, so you can do various translations. This is really useful for multinational companies that are we have multi-continental companies that have 6, 7, 8 different languages for their service desks, and you can translate specific requests into a whole pile of different languages. And that way you can support all of your customers around the world. And so global companies use this really heavily, and we've helped a lot of companies build out more complex translated portals to service all of their customers across all the regions that they support. So that's a really cool functionality that they've done a really good job of building out and expanding. Beyond that, we've got some portal settings. This allows us to customize the URL of the portal, look and feel, the name, introduction text, stuff like that. And then we can group our requests as well if we choose to. We could put different requests in different groups. We see this more evidently in the IT portal. So we jump up to the Help Center and we go to the IT Service Desk. We've actually grouped our requests into various sections. We've got a computers request group that has its own set of requests. We've got logins and accounts with its own set of requests. and applications and service and infrastructure. And it allows us to help the customer drill down to the exact thing they want to ask for. And it makes, again, one of the goals with building a service desk is we want it to be as intuitive as possible for the customer that's going to be utilizing it. And so that's our portal settings. We can group our requests. We can set up our email requests, which we've talked about a little bit already earlier. We can set up specific customer notifications. And one of the most important things here is we can edit those notifications, edit the templates, full HTML. You can build out those templates to be whatever you want, have your own logos, your own wording, verbiage, all that stuff can be customized. We can build out a widget like we talked about earlier. We can set up our satisfaction surveys that are going to be sent out. We can change the question. We can update the whole thing, and then we can go ahead and link straight back to our satisfaction report here. We can access our knowledge base settings and link additional knowledge bases to our service desk. And then we can come down here to this article suggestions, and we can say, okay, for reporting a maintenance issue, we're not allowing any articles to pop up, but for all the others we are, because these all have self-help stuff. But if you're reporting a maintenance issue, you don't really need a self-help article. You need to report the issue so we can see it. Because this is one of those requests you don't want to deflect, probably. You don't want somebody trying to fix a pipe by themselves. Below that, we've got the most important piece of a service desk, arguably the most important piece, which is the ability to create SLAs or service level agreements. And this is going to be the last thing that I talk about on this webinar before we go to questions. Service level agreements are what teams use to indicate whether or not they're reaching or responding to the customer in a timely manner. SLAs can come in various levels. One of the most common is a time to resolution SLA. This is basically the amount of time we are committing to completing your request in. With each SLA, we'll add one from scratch. We'll go ahead and add an SLA, and we're going to call this one time to first response. We're going to use this SLA. And basically, the first thing we do is we say, okay, how long should it take us to respond to a ticket? So in this case, we're going to say, we're going to respond to a ticket within 4 hours, right? Now, the facility service desk is probably a 24-hour service desk. There's probably somebody, especially if you have a company, like if you're in manufacturing or something like that, pretty much you need to have somebody with facilities on site at all times. So we're going to use a 24/7 calendar for this particular time to first response. We're going to go ahead and save this guy. So basically all requests that come in, they have 4 hours to respond to those requests. Now, this is going to be applying to all remaining issues, but we can add additional targets. Maybe there's 8 hours. And in fact, let's go ahead and make the all remaining issues 8 hours. And we'll apply the 4-hour goal to only things with a specific, we'll say priority equals, let's say high or something like that. Okay, so anything that's high priority, or we'll say priority in parentheses high or highest. So we'll do either one of those. And again, you can use any JQL here to set your goals. But in this case, anything that's priority high or highest is going to have a time goal of 4 hours. Everything else is going to be 8 hours. Okay. Now, time to first response. We're also going to be able to set our conditions, right? And so we want to choose when we're going to start counting, when we're going to pause counting, and when we're going to finish counting. So we're going to start counting when an issue gets created, right? The timer is going to start. It's not going to pause, but it is going to finish as soon as we either make a comment for our customer or we, enter the status in progress. So basically, if we start working on the ticket, they'll see it gets moved to in progress. We might have an investigation status or something like that. They'll get an email. And so that's actually going to be considered a response in this service desk. Like, hey, we're looking into it. Or we make a comment that's for the customer. Again, that's going to be considered a response. And so that's when it'll start, is when the issue is created, and it'll stop when the comment gets added or it gets moved in progress. And we'll hit save. And now we've got an additional SLA created. We got a time to resolution SLA, service level agreement. We've got a time to first response. And those SLAs show up like we showed in those queues out here in the queue. And so if we want to see the all open queue and we want to see time to first response SLAs counting, we can actually add that as a column, time to first response. Okay, and we can reorder that and drag it over here. Okay, and hit save. So now we'll see, for any future requests that get added, they're going to have a time to first response SLA, right? Pretty useful functionality there. And so we really want to focus on building out good SLAs for our teams. So again, we go back to that solution, right? Helping folks prioritize their work. Well, the best way to prioritize is see which ones are closest to breaching their SLAs. And those SLAs can come in two forms, time to first response or time to resolution. And they can come in 100 other different forms as well. So you could have everything from time in status, how long is it taking to get approvals? You can have cycle time SLAs for not only time to resolution, like how much are we working on it, but the entire time, because maybe you're waiting on other teams to get your work done, stuff like that. So SLAs, sky's the limit there as far as configuration. And the last thing I'll say with these service desks is, oftentimes, especially for somebody like HR, the project kind of sits as a gatekeeper more, where basically that's where they get their tasks, but they're not really working in the project. So oftentimes we use automation to set up a link between a service management project and a software project. And so you can have teams working in their own project over on the side, getting their work done, and then a couple folks that are monitoring their service desk where they're actually receiving any external tickets. And so there's a lot of automation built into Jira to allow for that type of collaboration between two projects. And so that's another feature there that is brought to bear for a product like this that actually lives in Atlassian's larger ecosystem. So, all right. So I do want to talk about, one more thing and just kind of about who we are real quick before we dive into questions. Expium is an Atlassian Platinum Solutions partner. And what that means is Atlassian has taken all of the direct, customer support, planning, implementation, consulting services, and they've encouraged companies to become what's called a partner, a solutions partner. And those companies actually go out and help customers like you guys build out your instances and build customization, build automation, and even custom app development to support customers in potentially larger enterprise situations. And so Expium is the highest level of solutions partner. It's called a Platinum Solutions Partner. And there's only 50 of those, I believe, still globally or somewhere around that mark. And so we have a lot of capabilities beyond that. We do 4 kind of main services. Training is a big part of it. Things like webinars, like this webinar right here, are a big part of our business. We do licensing, and we have the ability to co-term licenses to help folks get everything on a single invoice instead of having a bunch of different products that they're having to manage payment for. We do consulting. So, custom implementations. We can do, advise people on large scale cloud migrations. We've just done a couple of large ones here recently. And when you're moving from like an on-prem to a cloud instance, a SaaS instance, or we do custom solutions, building out custom apps using the Jira APIs, or even building out complete custom front ends for Atlassian products like we did with Volkswagen a few years ago. There's a great video on our website talking about building out a custom front end for the prototype vehicle group at Volkswagen. So stuff like that. We do kind of some cool custom builds. We worked with a bunch of companies. There's a whole big list on our website, expium.com. And so I'll go ahead and pop that open. Last thing I want to say is next week, if you were hopping on here to get more of an in-depth ITSM workshop, that's actually, we kind of separated this out because Jira Service Management has gotten so big that we actually have to do 2 separate webinars. This is kind of our fundamentals webinar. Next week, Brian Darr is doing a more in-depth ITSM workshop and Jira Service Management webinar, talking about change management, incident management, problem management, alerting, and asset management, all that jazz. So that's going to be next week. You can find that if you go to expium.com and go to training. You can find our full, upcoming classes, things like that, our full class list here. And so we encourage you guys to pop in here and see more of our service management offerings, things like that, if that's of interest to you guys. And so now I'm going to go ahead and pivot to questions. So I think we've got a few questions that have come in on the Q&A side. So let me go ahead and pull some of those up here. All right, starting from the top. Can you create POs for building services for supplies? Once associated with tickets, could a PO report be created for anything purchased at Home Depot, Lowe's, et cetera? Yeah, so that stuff's going to come into, so typically you've got a tool for POs and a tool for actually tracking repair requests. And often you need to link them together. So absolutely, we can attach forms for POs. The POs themselves, usually you'll have a purchasing tool that's kind of separate from Jira. But you can absolutely link that to Jira itself. And there's a lot of add-ons in the marketplace for PO tools or for linking to purchasing tools and add-ons like that. So I would look into the marketplace for connections if you want to connect directly to a tool like a purchasing tool or acquisition tool. But if you want to just attach POs, you can absolutely attach forms to tickets right here if you're using it for facilities. And then you can absolutely filter by, you could have a vendor field and you can filter by that vendor field and report on how many tickets or how many purchases are coming from specific vendors like Home Depot, like Lowe's, stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and with anything, guys, if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We can set up a call and talk through the solution that you guys may need. I would recommend using our email. The best email to use is going to be a team@expium.com, and it'll go to our main project coordinator team, and they'll reach out to me if they have any specific questions that I need to answer, and we can set up a call to talk through any solutions. So just if you have further questions beyond, the quick answers that I can give at the end of this webinar, please reach out. That can be really useful. So, all right, so we'll go ahead. Next guy. Let's see, can the items in queues be ranked manually or just ordered automatically? Yeah, so you can do, typically when you're in the queue in the service management side, you're going to be ordering by column here, not necessarily ranking like you would in a board. But we can take tickets from a service desk and put them on like a Kanban board or a Scrum board and rank them manually as well. So yeah, there's that capability exists. The queues are designed for fixed priority because usually you want to be really consistent. But you absolutely can choose to rank manually. All right, what is involved in migrating existing Jira projects to Service Desk? Currently have an access request project in Jira that would be ideal for Service Desk. I'd want to avoid duplicating the existing project and having both available. Yeah, so we have there's a great function inside Jira for move, a move function. So you can go to any ticket and you can go to the ellipses up here and you can click move and you can actually move tickets directly to another project. So what you would probably want to do is create your Service Desk project, and then you would go to, open up a big filter with all your issues and do a bulk change, and you would bulk move all your tickets into that new project. And then send out, you want to have good user comms and tell people, hey, this is now the place where we're going to be submitting tickets. Here's the link. Go in here. Let us know if you need any help, something like that. And it's a little bit like, you want to rip off the Band-Aid quick and go ahead and do it. I wouldn't hesitate to go through that process because it's totally worth it to get people submitting tickets over in a Service Desk. But yeah, create a new project and use that bulk move functionality that exists on the filter side to move all those tickets over. All right, do customers need accounts in JSM in order to report issues? The customer is a company that has multiple persons who can report incidents. They all need separate accounts. So they don't have to have a JSM license, but they do have to have an Atlassian account to submit a ticket unless you make your portal public. You could do a completely public portal and not require login. But that's not really ideal for keeping communication in place. And so we do recommend people use an existing Atlassian account and require folks to create an Atlassian account, but you can allow anybody to come in and create their own Atlassian account, and then that tracks their information. And you can group them by domain. You could put them, what I would recommend for having if you have a company as a customer, I would create an organization like we talked about in that customers section. Add an organization that's going to be that company, and basically say, and then put customers in that organization. And so it groups them all together and silos them out. And that's going to be the best way to have kind of not really a shared account, but have a lot of different users from the same company all grouped into the one organization, so they can see each other's tickets, and so you can manage their tickets all together. So the customer agent roles are assigned to people. So customers are added via our customer section here. And then the agent role is actually added in the project roles section, which is in project settings and under people. We can add folks to to this service desk team role right here. And so that's going to be the best way to do that. And the account licensing and pricing is all done via that agent license. Is there any way to have service management or Confluence show broken links created when doc is moved deleted? That's going to be more of a Confluence question, and it'll basically just won't show the link. There's not going to show that it's necessarily broken. So you'd have to troubleshoot that under testing, something like that. And then lastly, 30,000 tickets a year. If we create multiple service desks by business line, is there one queue? So you would want to build a filter, a top level global filter that collects all those issues. That's filtered by multiple different projects and put them all on a board. It's going to be your best bet there. All right, so we are reaching the end of time here. And so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. In the chat, you'll see that our coordinator sent a message that gives you the email to use, team@expium.com, to reach out if you guys want to kind of get together for further conversation about maybe some solutions for you guys, or just reach out with some basic questions. And then we do have that additional webinar coming next week that Brian's going to be doing surrounding specifically ITSM and a more in-depth look at incident management and change management. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks for a lot of good questions, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week for that next webinar. So thanks, guys. Have a great day.